Hello, and welcome to Childless Not by Choice. This podcast was created for and about the Childless Not by Choice community on a global level. Before we get started, I would like to thank my sponsors and supporters. Thank you, Morgan Air Conditioning, Sales, Service, and Installation, serving Tampa, Florida, and the surrounding areas. Morgan Air Conditioning can be reached by calling 813-500-7765. That's 813-500-7765. Or their web address is www.morganair.net. That's www.morganair.net. Along with a stellar business reputation in the Tampa, Florida area, Morgan Air Conditioning is also known and well received for giving back to the community, whether it is back to school drives or donating services to the less fortunate. Thank you, Morgan Air Conditioning, for recognizing the vision of Childless Not by Choice and being a part of it. Next, I would like to thank Alba Digital Media for creating my website, www.childlessnotbychoice.net. That's www.childlessnotbychoice.net, and for producing this podcast. Alba Digital Media's clients include those who need website building and maintenance, as well as those like myself who require professional podcast editing. Their client base reflects many industries and levels of needs for professional assistance. To contact Alba Digital Media for your web building and podcast production needs, visit www.albadigitalmedia.com. That's www.albadigitalmedia.com. Thank you, Alba Digital Media, for making me look good and sound good. Finally, I would like to thank Devoted, the musical duo who created my theme music. Thank you, Devoted, for your beautiful music. Devoted has had the opportunity to sing and play in many countries. To contact Devoted for your music needs, visit devotedministries@gmail.com. That's devotedministries@gmail.com. And if you would like to become a one-time or ongoing sponsor, or if you would like to become a patron of Childless Not by Choice, please contact me at Sevilla@SevillaMorgan.com. That's Sevilla@SevillaMorgan.com for details. Now, on to the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Childless Not by Choice, where my mission is to recognize and speak to the broken hearts of childless not by choice women and men around the world. Sevilla Morgan here. I am spreading the great news that we can live a joyful, relevant, and fulfilled life, although we did not have the children we so wanted. Well, as we continue on here, I would like to thank my Patreon contributor. Patreon contributors are those who have taken an interest in my platform, whether they fit the Childless Not by Choice demographic or not. They have decided to contribute a certain dollar amount on a regular basis to help fund my dream of creating awareness and conversation for the Childless Not by Choice community globally. Click the Patreon link for details and to become a patron. And that link is in the show notes. I was recently made aware that the link was not working. I was not aware of that. And so I went in and fixed that. So if you were going there and having trouble finding me, that issue has been fixed. So I want to thank Jordan Morgan for his patronage. Jordan, thank you so much. You've been contributing for quite some time now, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you and your contribution. It's going towards a worthy cause, as you know, which is why you're making the contribution, and so it's truly appreciated. Well, this is my 3-year podcast anniversary, my 3-year anniversary of podcasting. And, I didn't know what I did not know at the time. Fortunately, some awesome people came alongside me along the way. The first few episodes probably reflect my fear or my effort to hide such fear or said fear. The newer episodes still make me cringe when I hear them. Or if I see someone, I can't see who it is. Keep in mind, I can't see who you are when you're listening, but I can see, the listens that are being played on each episode. And so you can tell as a podcaster if somebody's just like what we call binge listening. I do that quite a bit. I'm subscribed to over 40 podcasts. It used to be over 50, and I had to cull the list. So I'm down to about 40 podcasts now, and love podcasts. I listen to all types of podcasts. Whatever I'm in the mood for, there's a podcast for it, and I just love the medium. And so when I see somebody listening to episode after episode after episode, I know that they're going through my podcast library and what we call binge listening to each episode. And when I find a podcast that I really like, that's what I do. I just go through and listen from the most recent all the way back to the first episode until I really recently just did that. And so I can see when people are doing that on my episode, that is like the coolest thing to a podcaster, to see that someone is enjoying their podcast so much that they're listening to every episode. So I first want to say thank you. And second, I want to say, don't judge me. As you get closer to the beginning of the library, that's where most podcasters dread listeners to go. And so, don't judge me. And I hope that you walk away thinking, well, she got better and better and not worse and worse. So, I really appreciate anyone who's binge listening to the podcast, and I hope you're really getting the assistance that you need. I know it's a pretty serious subject, and I try to make it light sometimes as much as I can, but this is a heavy subject. And so you wouldn't be listening unless you are actually interested in knowing what's going on with our demographic, the childless not by choice demographic, or you are actually a member of that demographic. So either way, thank you. It is appreciated. Well, as I said, this is my 3-year podcast anniversary. This is episode 91. So welcome to episode 91. I can honestly say, I hope, as I said before, that it's gotten much better. There are a lot less nightmare scenarios now. Sometimes things happen now and then, but the nightmares are less. I will admit that I actually cried for the first time over an episode not too long ago, though. In the not too distant past, I actually did cry over an episode. I will not tell you which one. But yeah, there were tears coming out of my eyes. I couldn't even believe it when I felt the tears touching my face, my own tears touching my face. I couldn't believe that I was actually crying, because they gave me no notice whatsoever for me to even try to choke them back. They just started flowing out of my eyes. They were just suddenly there, and they would not stop. I would have done anything not to have cried in front of my podcast producer. He was very stoic about the whole thing, and he worked so hard to fix the issue. And I will tell you, the episode turned out really well. You probably would not know there was an issue because it was fixed by a professional. And he scared me, because at first he's like, Sevilla, I don't know if we can fix this. This is bad. And so he really scared me with that. But then he really came through, and he only asked that I never let that happen again. But, and trust me, it won't, because I learned my lesson on so many levels with that episode. It was tough, but the episode got out. It sounds wonderful. And like I said, I'm not telling you which one it is. Secret. So yeah, I'm telling you, I'm eternally grateful, for my podcast producer. I don't know what I would do without him. He's truly an answer to prayer, and I'm really thankful for him. So, wow, that prayer that I prayed 3 years ago, he's the answer to that prayer. Well, as the months and years have gone by, I have received more and more emails and direct messages. People are slowly coming out of the woodwork and reaching out, and I want to tell you that I know it is tough, and that I will probably not hear from many of you, and that is okay. I only ask that you keep listening and that you allow your heart to heal. And that I hope that these episodes, this podcast, is helping you with that. And for those of you who do reach out, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It is your notes and letters that keep me going. Because especially in the beginning, you're wondering, who's really listening? Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's writing. Nobody's emailing. Nothing's happening, but you just keep on going because you have such a passion for the platform. And that's the case with me. I am so passionate about this subject matter that 3 years and 91 episodes later, I'm still here. Even during the quiet times of those 3 years when I heard from no one, I kept going because I knew how, and I know how difficult it is to reach out and speak out to basically an absolute stranger. I mean, unless you're in the podcast group, the Facebook group, and you're interacting with me and you're seeing my Facebook lives, which I do every Sunday before an episode comes out, which would be the second and fourth Sunday of every month. Unless you're interacting with me on that level, who am I really? I'm just a voice behind a microphone that is hoping and trying my very best to encourage you as you continue on this childless, not by choice journey. But that's why I always invite you as a childless, not by choice person to come over to the platform. If you are a childless, not by choice man, or you are someone who is interested in the demographic, there is the Childless Not by Choice Supporters with Sevilla Morgan Facebook group. If you are a childless, not by choice woman, a woman who never had children, there is the Childless Not by Choice with Sevilla Morgan Facebook group. So those are two distinctly different groups for two somewhat different demographics. So the Childless Not by Choice with Sevilla Morgan is for women only who never had children. The Childless Not by Choice Supporters group with Sevilla Morgan is for everybody else, including men who never had children. I haven't yet had the opportunity to create a separate group just for the men who have not had children. I have not forgotten about you. You're on my mind on a regular basis, and you usually are on my mind when I go into the supporters group, and I know that you are a man childless, not by choice, because when you join these groups, you have to answer certain questions. And so I know who the men are in the group that are childless, not by choice. And whenever you see a post that I put in there, or you respond to a post, I'm thinking, oh man, I wish I could get that group up and running, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. There are just some things that I'm waiting on. And so please bear with me. Please be patient with that. And please continue to join the conversation in the supporters group. And, I just really appreciate your being there and your patience. So those are the groups. And so that I do not seem like just a voice behind a microphone, come on over to the groups. That way you can hear the Facebook lives when I post them. That way you can see who I am. I'm pretty much all over social media anyway. I'm not hiding out, but I don't want you to feel like it's just a voice. Just a voice who sounds like she really wants to encourage. I really want you to come on over and see who I am and feel more comfortable with who I am. And also, speaking of that, if you, again, are a woman childless, not by choice, on the website, www.childlessnotbychoice.net, that information is in the show notes, there is a community over there. The women in the Facebook group, the Childless Not by Choice with Sevilla Morgan Facebook group, I have been inviting them to come on over to the community. And so there's a handful of women in the community. And in the community, there is space for even more conversation. There are several groups and several forums over there. So if you are a woman childless not by choice, you are more than welcome to come on over to the community and join the conversation. If you don't see anybody in the room, in the community at the time that you go in, please still leave a post. Please still respond to a post that you see in there. And if you have any questions about the community, about the Facebook groups, about the platform in general, feel free to reach out to me. Many people reach out to me on direct message, and many people reach out to me via email. And so please feel free to reach out. I'm pretty much an open book. So just let me know if you have any questions or suggestions. If you have any suggestions for episodes, feel free to let me know. I actually recently received a suggestion for an episode, and I'm going to read you that email. Let's get that email here. 1 second. I also, I wanted to remind you, I don't know if I finished my thought. If you have reached out, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your notes, your letters, and, your direct messages. Because as I was saying before, as a voice behind a microphone staring at a laptop as I record, it's like, I know, I can tell by the numbers that people are listening more and more all the time over the last 3 years. But still, it's, when you're recording, I don't know if I'm explaining it properly, but when you're recording, it's really a lonely, alone thing. You're the typical podcaster is sitting in a room somewhere, hopefully a room that's well insulated, and it's just them if they're a lone podcaster. There are some who have podcasts with more than one host. But if you're podcasting like me, you're in a room and you're, like I said, speaking into a microphone and looking at your laptop, and it's like, wow, I wonder who's really listening right now. So it can be a lonely existence. So when you write letters and notes and emails, trust me, I grab onto them like, wow, thank you so much. That means somebody heard me. And like in the case of this email that I received, she said she reached out to me because I actually reached out to her on YouTube, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But then, she listened to a recent episode, and because of what I said on the episode, she reached out to me. So it works. It's true. I'm really listening, and I really, want to hear from you. So without further ado, let me read this email. It says, Dear Sevilla, it is great to have been in contact on YouTube. I have started listening to your podcasts. I have begun from the last about unexplained infertility, which most closely relates to me, smiley face. I deeply admire your commitment to bringing out the voice of the childless. Thanks for what you are doing for all of us. I have heard in the podcast that you are open to suggestions about what could be investigated and researched further. I have an idea. If this is suitable and convenient, the relationship between post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and infertility. I think there are some suggestions that PTSD causes infertility, but what about the other way around? Can infertility, and especially infertility treatments like IVF, lead to PTSD? I have found some references, and she lists a couple of websites that I plan on going to, and I plan on researching this because I find this intriguing. And one of the links that she sent, she says that the suggestion is that women have undergone fertility treatment. They do have symptoms of PTSD. And then she lists some statistics, some statistical numbers and how PTSD compares to veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan, comparing those numbers to women who have gone through IVF and or are childless. So I can't wait to just bite into this and do some research, because I never really thought of putting the two together: PTSD and infertility, infertility and PTSD, IVF and PTSD. I'm really looking forward to doing the research. And so, I just really appreciate this email from Dr. Christina. She signs off by saying, "Greetings and love from Oslo," as in Oslo, Norway. So, Dr. Christina, thank you so much. And I've responded to her, but I wanted to say publicly, thank you for your email. Thanks for reaching out. And I'm glad that the podcast is helping you on your journey. And the reason we got together is because I reached out to her when I saw her YouTube video. Someone in the Childless Not by Choice community reposted the YouTube video, and I watched it and I was like, wow. I mean, it was like watching one person do a multi-act play. That's what it's like. And so I am going to go ahead and put the link to that YouTube video in the show notes for you to check out, because I was just like, wow, it really was literally like watching a play. And so, I'll be working on that, researching on that research on that episode very soon. Looking forward to it. And then I got this Facebook message. It was a direct message from Diana. This is from back in April. And I created episode 89 based on this message that I got from Diana. So again, just reminding you guys that, your notes really, really help, and they are truly appreciated. Let me see here. Where is my note from Diana? Let's see here. Here it is. She says, "While listening to your PCOS segment, I wondered if you have ever done an unexplained infertility segment. If you haven't, I would like to ask you to think about doing one, because it is something that isn't talked about often enough. I have unexplained fertility, and I feel it is the greatest struggle of my life. It is a mystery disease that makes doctors shrug, as there is no cure if there is no disease, other than lack of pregnancy. I am currently fighting it by following a strict keto diet of low-carb, high-fiber veggies, no sugars or processed carbs, and fatty meats. I listen to your podcast while at the gym because they make me feel less alone, and that you are fighting my disease with me. Thank you for your time." And that's from Diana back in April. And so when I got that message from Diana, we did a little bit of a chat on Facebook direct message, and then I created episode 89 from that. And I hope it helped. I hope it helped her and the others who are dealing with this unexplained infertility. I even asked, in that episode, and just in general, which is worse? Which is worse? Not knowing why you're not getting pregnant, unexplained and or idiopathic infertility, which, well, I'll let you listen to the episode. Or knowing because you have the proof in the scar tissue, the fibroid tumors, all of that. Which is worse? If you want to send me a response, that's fine. But I just wonder sometimes which is worse. And so anyway, moving on. I also got this message in May from Carol, where she referenced my interview with Chelsea Patterson Sobolik in episode 86. And I'm going to also put that episode in the show notes, but I wanted to read you the note from Carol. Let's see, where is Carol's note? I'm going from one screen to the next, so I apologize. It's in different places here. But Carol says, some weeks ago, I was at a church service where the music and sermon content was focused on the goodness of God. The pastor invited 2 testimonies on the theme of the goodness of God, and one was of a married couple who felt that God had promised them children and got them when the doctors had said it was hopeless. I felt so disheartened hearing their testimony because it contributes to the idea that the only way a Christian childless couple can achieve their happily ever after is with a child. I'm glad Sobolik had another opinion. So that was from Carol back in May of this year. And I am glad too, Carol, and everyone who's had an experience like that, that we have this episode 86, because in that episode, Chelsea talks about how she had to get up in the middle of a service because she just couldn't take it anymore. She ended up being in the service where it was baby dedication time, which they had done the baby dedication during a Thanksgiving service, and she was very young and just, she found out about her condition, MRKH, at a very young age, and it was just tough. It was so tough she had to get up. And so I know, I know all about it. I have sat in church and wondered how come I did not know that particular Wednesday was a baby dedication Wednesday. There, I've said it. It's out there for the whole world to know. And when you make commentary like that, or like the commentary that Carol made, it's easy for some people to think, oh, how hateful. But that's not it at all. It's not hateful. We are happy that you got your forever after and that you have your beautiful bundle of joy. But you're sitting there as a childless, not by choice woman, a woman who has been told you will not have children. And if you're like me, you're not going to have a child because you have had a hysterectomy. And so it's not going to happen. And you still have to sit in the middle of a service where people are enjoying one of the happiest moments of their lives. And of course you want to be happy for them. And you are. I am very happy for these people who have taken the time to take their children to church and stand in front of the church and have their children dedicated. And for those who have their children baptized, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I actually pray for these babies when they're up there and the parents, because this is an important role that they are about to embark upon. So there's nothing hateful about Carol's note or what I just said. The bottom line is, it's still a tough pill to swallow when you sit there as a childless, not by choice woman, and you get nothing. That's the bottom line. And yes, life is not fair and things happen and we all have things to deal with. Yes, we all know that. And still, the bottom line is we've got to figure out how to maneuver these situations. And that's what this podcast is all about. And that's what interviews like the interview I did with Chelsea Patterson Sobolik is all about. And so I'd also like to ask you to make sure you check out her book. Check out the episode so you can hear about her book. And, I just really hope that those of you who are listening who have children understand what it is I'm trying to say. I really do, because it's a fact and it is what it is. And this podcast was created and will continue to be created to help us along the journey so that we can deal with the sadness and the grief and the feelings of trying to figure out how to maneuver through situations where we find ourselves sometimes in the midst of a situation that we cannot easily extricate ourselves from. So that's what this podcast is all about. Now, Chelsea's book, I'll go ahead and tell you, it's Longing for Motherhood, Holding On to Hope in the Midst of Childlessness. So be sure to check out her book on Amazon, and be sure to check out her episode that as I said, I'm going to put in the show notes. One of the things Chelsea said, mentioned that before I move on here, she said that not every story ends with a neat little bow. And it's so true. So again, thankful for those who were able to get their answers to their prayers. And I'm continuing on to be an advocate for those of us who did not. So anyway, moving right along. Well, the platform continues to grow. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I had a little note to myself here. This month, July, marks 40 years since the first successful IVF treatment took, and the first IVF baby was born. So that baby is now 40 years old. I have a great, I hope I remember to put that in the show notes. I hope I have it, but I have a wonderful blog that someone wrote on this whole IVF, the issues of IVF, the realities of IVF, and how IVF will not always be the answer for everyone. Not every IVF, what's the word I'm looking for? IVF doesn't take every single time. There's a low instance, actually, of how many times it takes. And so there are going to still be women who may go through several cycles and end up not having the child. But anyway, the blog is great. It's a great blog, and I hope you'll take the time to read it. It's got a lot of information in there, a lot of stuff I really didn't know. So this is the 40th anniversary of IVF, in vitro fertilization. So, as I was saying, the platform continues to grow. There are now well over 300 women in the Facebook group. And in the supporters group, it's a lot less, but it's growing little by little. And I'm going to continue to make sure that both groups grow and make sure that the platform grows. And I'm trying again to get everybody to get on over to the community. It's really very similar to Facebook, except it allows for more conversation groups, forums. You simply have to log in, go to www.childlessnotbychoice.net, and just see that email address with my contact information in the show notes. 3 years of podcasting. November will mark 4 years of the creation of this platform, which I've created from scratch. And, as I mentioned earlier, some wonderful people have come alongside and helped me. And I so appreciate the role that everyone has played, whether they're still in that role or they have moved on. They know who they are. I continue to be forever thankful for those crazy late nights that we stayed up. It was myself and Kevin, my podcast producer and web builder, and Fraser, shout out to Fraser, who the three of us were online, on video. They are 5 hours ahead of me in Scotland, you guys. And in the beginning stages of getting this website just right, getting the colors just right, that will always be the joke between the three of us. I mean, just having the correct purple, because purple is, many of you know the whole thing behind purple. I'm not going to get into that here, but I wanted that purple for a reason. So when you visit my website, my platform, you see purple all over the place. We had to get the right RGBH number. I think that's what it's called. Just being up till all crazy hours of the night. I mean, if they're 5 hours ahead of me and we're online at 9, 10, 11 o'clock my time at night, what time is it for them? I will never forget what they did for me in helping me get started and getting this whole platform set up, and for Kevin's continued patience with me, and just his mentorship and friendship as this podcast heads into year 4. So I really want to thank Kevin at Alba Digital Media, albadigitalmedia.com, if you need help with your podcast production or web building. I really seriously would suggest you check out Kevin at albadigitalmedia.com. I also want to thank Devoted, who created the music that you hear at the beginning and the end, and in the podcasting world, or probably in the radio world, the music world, we call it the bumper music. And so the music at the beginning and the end was created by the duo Devoted, and I love that music so much. I love that music, and I want to thank Devoted for that piece of music. It's truly appreciated. They have been all over the planet, you guys, singing all over the world. Very, very, very beautiful voices, and so thank you, Devoted, for all you do and have done. And I want to thank Morgan Ear, who sponsors this podcast. They've been sponsors of this podcast for quite some time, I want to say almost from the beginning. And I really, really appreciate the sponsorship. I have been asked what air conditioning has to do with a childless not by choice platform or podcast. And my response is, what does air conditioning have to do with donating backpacks to kids who would not otherwise be able to afford them? The bottom line is, if there is a need and you want to fill it, when you know there are hurting hearts all over the globe and you want to help in some way, branding is not going to be a deterrent. So, having said that, thank you so much, Morgan Ear, for all that you do in your local community there in Tampa, helping people by donating to those who are less fortunate. I mean, Florida gets up close to the hundreds, you guys. It's in the 90s in the summertime here. When you don't have central air, it can be deadly, to be honest. Every year we hear about elderly or ill people who die because they did not have proper air conditioning and they just couldn't take the heat. And so air conditioning companies in Florida, there are tons of them, but Morgan Ear is the air conditioning company that I would strongly suggest that you reach out to, because unfortunately, a lot of times there are companies that can be advantageous. And so you want to make sure that you're reaching out to a company that's trustworthy and that is being led by someone who is trustworthy. And so I would strongly suggest Morgan Ear if you are in the Tampa area. Check with them to see what their, how far out they would go for you. What is that? The circumference? Diameter? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. But check with them directly. The phone number is mentioned in the intro, and see if you have air conditioning needs, or if you have family in the Tampa Bay area and they need air conditioning assistance, please refer them to Morgan Ear. So thank you, Morgan Ear, for your sponsorship. And speaking of sponsorship opportunities, I am always looking for more sponsors. I would love more sponsors. Sponsorship opportunities are available for as short as 1 month. I need a month's notice. So the 1 month would be, for example, someone who has an upcoming event and you want me to mention your event on this podcast. Then you can do a 1 month event. Or if you just want to do a month to see how it goes, I don't think a month is enough time for you to see how much ROI, return on investment, you will get. But the fact is the minimum is a month. And so I just need a month's notice to get that month up and running for you. As a matter of fact, I need a month's notice for everybody, every length of time. There are 3-month agreements, 6-month agreements, 1-year agreements, or more. Just email me or direct message me, and I will send you the application. You fill out the application, scan it back to me, and we'll get to work on making your advertisement sound perfect. And we'll get going on that. Get going on making you look good and sound good. So sponsorship money and Patreon contributions are reinvested into the podcast and the entire platform. I want to build courses directly into my website, and the platform for those courses are not cheap. It's a program or a platform that you buy and then you install it into the website. And those platforms are not cheap. So I also plan to upgrade my podcast system, including building or buying a portable sound booth. Believe it or not, some podcasters go under a blanket to protect the sound of their podcast. I mean, we will do just about anything for good sound. And so there are sound booths. They can be pricey, but there are sound booths available that you can put around your microphone and your laptop to help with the sound. And so I'm looking to get one of those as well, maybe get a new boom arm. The one that I have is relatively inexpensive, but it was a great starter boom arm. I'm not complaining, but if I could get a better boom arm to attach to my desk, that would be awesome. So every penny will be put to use that comes into the platform, and it would be truly appreciated. And enough about money. I'm not going to talk about money anymore. Enough about that for now. I just want to thank you again for listening to the podcast the last 3 years. If you're new to the podcast, thank you for going back through the library and binge listening to every episode. It is appreciated. Thank you for allowing me to create the conversation and awareness. And I want to say that I have seen hearts heal over the last 3 or 4 years, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and it's amazing to see the level of healing that's come from people just joining the conversation by listening to this podcast, by joining the groups on Facebook, by speaking to me. I mean, people just reach out to me. And I try to maintain a schedule. I have a day timer. I've got a schedule. But when people reach out to me, if I can, I will stop what I'm doing and talk to them. There's a woman in the group from Latvia, and we had a nice little conversation today. And so, you know, I want people to know that somebody out there really cares about their heart, and it will push them along on their journey and strengthen them. So that's what I'm all about. I am a professional, real deal encourager. That's my role. It's my gift. I love encouraging others. And so I'm so glad to hear when you are encouraged and when you are at such a place of healing that you're doing better with your relationships, personal, at work, in the world, that you're just doing so much better. It makes my heart glad. So my sincerest thanks to you for listening, conversing, and sharing this platform, this podcast. And just before I sign off, I want you to listen to this beautiful message that I got on my website. And I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.
Hello, Sevilla. My name is Marisha, and I'm calling to congratulate you on how you're helping women in their struggles, and sure that many women are being helped. Although I am a mother, I'm learning how to relate to women who are struggling with the process of trying to have a child or may have realized that they cannot conceive a child. My daughter is experiencing this right now. in trying to conceive. And so it's also helping me to understand what she is experiencing and going through. So I am very happy that you and other podcasters and bloggers are addressing the issue, and you're helping a lot of women. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and congratulations.